Dear listeners, we are back once again with a story written by Ronald Burns. If you enjoyed Ronald's story, be sure to explore more of his works on Amazon. We've included links to his stories in the description box below so you can easily dive into his captivating storytelling. Also, please like the video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell notification icon. Now, let's get on with the story. He took my wife, so I took his life. I'm Tim. I never thought I could kill someone. I never thought I could be that angry or possibly deranged. I was wrong. It was easy. It just took the right kind of motivation and loss coupled with long-term planning. Long-term planning has always been my specialty. Alan and I had competed against each other since high school. I think we were both jealous of each other. I envied his curly blonde hair. He wished his hair was straight, like my black hair. Alan was jealous of my singing voice. I was jealous of his ability with his guitar. We were the two worst lacrosse players in our high school. We each wore out the paint on our places on the bench. One day, to embarrass us, both the coach gave each of us fly swatters. We were never going to be athletes or scholars, or much of anything else. We didn't have any other friends. We knew that we were both losers and tried to laugh it off. But the facts hurt a lot. As I walked through the halls of my high school and suffered the snickering of other students, I vowed that someday I would show them that I was better than all of them put together. I was so pathetic that I actually believed that. Alan and I double-dated to our senior prom. I secretly wished I had dated his girlfriend. Many years later, I discovered that he felt the same way about my girlfriend. I guess forbidden fruit is always sweeter. We were the two worst dancers at the prom, but afterwards, we hoped to demonstrate to each of our dates in separate rooms at the hotel where the dance took place that our horizontal skills in beds were much better than our vertical ability on a dance floor. But both girls laughed at our attempt to get them into our motel rooms. We had placed a $100 bet on who would score, but it was a tie. We both lost. No apparently only meant no to Alan and me. The girls went back down to the dance and returned to the room with two of our school star football players. Those guys got lucky in the rooms that Alan and I paid for. I wanted to kill both of those guys, but they were each twice my size. Alan and I were the laughing talk of the school for the rest of our senior year. When we took the SATs, I beat Alan by 5 points on the verbal test. He beat me by 5 points on arithmetic. We called it a draw. We went to different college, but at the end of our first semester, we both were close to flunking out. His GPA was 1.73, and mine was 1.74. See, I told you I was smarter. We both laughed. We spent too much of our time playing computer games on our brand new Atari computer and trying to imagine better games, but didn't know how to create them. Both sets of parents never said it out loud, but their attitudes broadcast that they thought we were two failures beyond help or hope. That summer, our parents insisted that we either get jobs or take classes. We did both. We both took a course in coding computer games. Bingo. We both found our niche in life. We knew that you were supposed to start computer companies in your garage, but neither of our families had private garages. We both lived in apartment buildings. Since we both worked at a hamburger joint, we wrote the code in the storage room there, fueled by an unending river of free Java-induced jitters. In a fit of either inspiration or lack of sleep, we named our company Caffeinated Software. By the end of the summer, we had written a lacrosse computer game. It wasn't brilliant, and to be honest, the graphics were elementary, but at the time when there were dozens of baseball and football computer games with equally elementary graphics, we were the only lacrosse game. In the space of 2 months, we went from minimum wage fast food cashiers to 5-figure incomes. We traveled around the country attending computer fairs, selling our software one at a time, and signing up software stores to carry our game. Then, we had enough money to advertise in computer magazines. Within 6 months, we were each making $150,000. We coded programs for a few other esoteric athletic games that the market was ignoring, like fencing, rugby, and polo. Though none of those games was a smash hit, their combined income was enormous. 2 years later, we met my uncle's next-door neighbor who worked for a big venture capital company. They took us public and we were both multi-millionaires. I not only had FU money, but I had F you and the horse you rode in on money. I'm not only petty, but I'm vengeful. I tracked down the girl who dumped me at my senior prom to sleep with another guy. The two of them lived in a one-bedroom walk-up apartment above a dry cleaner. I mailed her a magazine article about me. I thanked her for giving me the fire in my belly that made me a success and wished her renewed happiness with her husband. Alan drove his brand-new Ferrari to my house. The license plate said Fast 99. We laughed until tears dropped from our eyes. A week later, I bought the same model, but my license said Faster 99. I laughed, but Alan was pissed off that had one-upped him. I didn't think it was a big deal, but I guess that Alan did. We were young, decent-looking, and filthy rich. Beautiful. Women who should have been way out of our league dated us and professed undying love after a 5-minute ride at 100 miles an hour in each of our Ferraris. Alan was always the playboy. I was more reserved. I'm forced to admit that he was also better looking than I was, and after we were both rich, he bought, rented, or leased dozens of supermodel caliber women. I wasn't following the same game plan. I wanted true love. I think I saw too many rom-com movies. Looking back, I now see that despite my infinitesimally higher GPA, Alan was in fact smarter than I was about real life. I dated a couple of girls. They each expected me to spend a fortune on them for our first date at an extremely expensive restaurant. One of them even marched me past a jewelry store window and pointed out a $10,000 necklace that she liked. I didn't play their game, and they each dumped me. I was angrier than hurt and wanted to strangle each of those exploitative for hurting me, but I controlled myself. I had controlled my temper my whole life. I feared that once I let go, it would burst out like a volcano, burning everything in its path, including me. Sheila was an emergency room nurse. She wasn't drop-dead beautiful, but she was pretty enough for me. I met her after I broke my ankle ice skating. She didn't know I was rich, and as I explained how I broke my foot, she laughed and called me a klutz. I laughed along with her. It was refreshing to meet a normal woman who wasn't a gold digger. At least I didn't think she was. On our first date, she suggested that we attend a Renaissance pleasure fair. At her insistence, I dressed as Henry E. And she wasn't Bull. Further research later revealed to me that and cheated on Henry. I should have made a note of that. We dated, and I never felt so happy in my life. I thought that for the first time in my life, I was loved and understood. It felt so much better than being rich and alone. We married. I continually donated money to the hospital where we met and frequently attended posh fundraisers. I thought we had the perfect marriage. I never suspected that Sheila would cheat on me. I was disappointed that she didn't want to be tied down with children just yet. That was a major problem for me, but I was sure we could work it out in time. I didn't realize that we each had different visions of how we wanted our lives to pan out. I wanted to come home to a family with a bunch of kids, and I guess that ultimately she just didn't want to come home. Sheila dragged me out to go dancing every Saturday night. At first I wasn't enthusiastic, but after a fortune in dance lessons, I enjoyed whisking Sheila around a dance floor. Though I did wish that the music wasn't so loud. At first our dance nights made Sheila happy, but soon it wasn't enough. About 5 months later I noticed a lot of red flags, telltale signs. It started with bedtime. We used to both go to bed around 11 p.m. Now she had to stay up half of the night watching TV so that by the time she did come to bed, I was sound, asleep, and she didn't have to worry that I would want to be intimate with her. One night when she slipped into bed beside me, I leaned over and put my arms around her. She pulled back and just about accused me of trying to sexually assault her. I stopped trying to touch her. I was afraid she'd call the police if I did. Try proving to a judge that you didn't attempt to sexually assault your wife. You all know what the other red flags are. She was distant, always on her phone, laughing and not telling me who called or what was so funny. I loved her so much and thought that she loved me too. But I wasn't going to play the fool. My wife was on a fundraising committee for the hospital, and recently there were late-night meetings several evenings a week. These meetings required new clothes and a lot more makeup. My wife was refusing intimacy for several weeks with the late-night TV, watching and complaining of back aches and pain down south. I'm not an idiot. though I did pretend to be one until I could figure out the who, when, and where of my revenge. Since I was rich, I hired my company's security firm to spy on my wife. I wasn't even through telling them what I wanted when the security firm's rep told me that Alan was cheating with my wife. I was the only one at the company who didn't know. That was humiliating. That explained the funny looks and smirks my staff had recently been giving me. Knowing something and proving in a court of law are, however, two different things. Having the private eye install hidden cameras in our house was easy, as well as a GPS tracker in her car. In less than a week, I had the proof for divorce court that she was intimate with my best friend Alan. I wasn't in a hurry for revenge, but I didn't want to make it terminal. He was rich and had his pick of beautiful women. Why did he have to take mine? Competing over test scores was one thing, but he escalated this competition into destroying my life, and I would return the favor 10 times over. Until this day, I had no idea that I had the capability to be such a vengeful bastard. I was shocked at myself, but enjoyed every moment of plotting my revenge. I was surrendering to the dark side, to hell with the Force. I felt like Darth Vader, except I was less forgiving than the Emperor. Sheila was not only having an affair with Alan, but with 2 other guys. She was just the latest in Alan's list of conquests. He must have slept with a bajillion different girls. Why couldn't he leave my Sheila alone? I was crushed. I had lost the woman I loved the most to the man I trusted the most. I felt like such a fool. Soon my pain and self-loathing turned into anger and uncontrollable rage. She went to her gynecologist for an examination without telling me, but the private eye I hired told me. I thought she might have an STD since I didn't fool around, and I knew that she did. A $750,000 a year gynecologist will absolutely not divulge private medical matters to a woman's husband. However, his $30,000 a year clerk told me everything for $5,000 in $100 bills. My wife had the Pamplona virus. For an additional $20,000 in cash, the nurse lied for me and reported to my wife that she didn't have any infections. I could fulfill any death wish I might have by giving her oral, and in a few years, dying of throat cancer. Even before this, I never gave my wife oral. You can call me a prude like my wife did, but sucking on what smelled like a tuna fish sandwich, left out too long in the sun, turned me off. Perhaps if her personal hygiene was better, things would have been different. In any event, I got the inoculation to prevent me from catching it from her, and then I used condoms, claiming I didn't want any children. This was just after Alan sold his stake in the computer company. I was still working hard and putting in more hours than I should have, considering that I was married. I learned that they had been intimate for over a year. I returned home from work one day to find Alan and Sheila in my living room drinking from a half-empty $400 bottle of Don Perignon Maidoneran. They were feeling no pain, but soon I would be. I knew what was coming and turned down their offer of a glass of bubbly. I needed my wits about me. Sheila gave the hackneyed preamble that she was sorry to hurt me, but we had grown apart, and Alan, who wasn't focused on work, understood her. "I get it," I said. "Have you already packed your bags?" I asked. "Yes," she answered, "there in Alan's limo." And she handed me the divorce papers. "I'll have my lawyer review them," I replied. "You're taking this a lot better than I imagined," Sheila said, as she stroked her throat. That was her tell when she was puzzled and confused. Before they left, Alan gloated that she left me because I wouldn't perform oral on her while he always did. I knew something that Alan didn't know. Remember, I scored 1 by 100 of a point higher than Alan in our first semester GPA. I'm just a little bit smarter. I put my arm on Alan's shoulder and instructed him to give her oral as often and for as long as she wanted it, since that was the tie that bound them together. Alan stuck out his tongue and wiggled it around as a sort of mockery of me. I played, the fool in front of him, knowing that in reality, he was the real fool. My whole married life with sweet little Sheila had been a lie. I was devastated, as you might imagine, but at least I was alive. And unlike Alan, I didn't have a death sentence hanging over my head. I was shattered, but tried to console myself over the fact that we didn't have children. Even though we had a prenup, she walked away with a fortune. I decided to use this experience to make some more money. I wrote a computer program designed to give you odds on if your wife is cheating on you. I called it the Cheater Beater. Is your Susie a flizzy? Does your girlfriend have it bad for Chad? Does your wife want a bone tyrant? Apparently, I filled the need in the marketplace, and I made even more millions that I didn't have the time to spend or a woman to spend it on. It motivated me to write a computer game where the cheated husband explores various ways to kill his wife and her lover without legal consequences. It became my company's bestseller. I learned that there were a lot of cheated on husbands who dreamed of revenge but didn't want to go to prison. This game was their perfect outlet to channel their rage, hatred, and to help mend their broken hearts. Physically, over the years, I let myself go. As my wallet increased, so did my waistline. I put on weight and stopped all exercise. My cardiologist asked me if I understood that I was slowly driving myself to the grave. That shook me up and woke me up. I began K-ing in Newport Beach. I started out hating it, but after the first week I began to enjoy it. A month later, I loved it and was hooked. I bought a bayfront home on Leo Island and kayaked every morning. I exchanged a ton of fat for a lot of muscle. I'm embarrassed to admit that I used to pose in front of a mirror and admire my now muscular chest and arms. Then I would laugh at myself. One sunny summer Saturday, I kayaked around Newport Bay when I saw a gorgeous woman who looked to be a few years younger than I was kayaking in the same direction. The Leo Island Bridge is about a 4-mile away. "I'll race you there," I yelled over the den of passing powerboats. "I don't race for free," she answered. "Loser pays for a glass of wine at the Blue Water Grill," I responded. She took off quickly before I was ready to race. She docked her kayak at the beach next to the bridge. "I won, you have to pay up," she taunted me. "But you cheated. I wasn't ready. Now you understand why nice guys always finish last." She bumped her shoulder against mine and we both laughed. Her name was Brooke. Over the third or maybe fourth glass of wine, she confessed that she was the widow of a cop killed in the line of duty. She had 2 kids under the age of 4. She wasn't looking for anything casual, and if her baggage was more weight than I could carry, we should end our relationship right after I paid for the wine. I don't know what got into me. Maybe it was lust, maybe appreciation for her honesty. Most likely it was her sincere blue eyes. I leaned over and kissed her. She placed her hands on my neck and drew me closer. "You're a great kisser," I finally said. "I'm surprised. You're only the second man who I've ever kissed like that," she replied. My late husband and I had been exclusive since 7th grade. My friends warned me not to get involved with a woman who had children, but I liked her a lot and soon loved her and her children. I had been so lonely since Sheila left me. So what the hell? After living together for 6 months and having her sign a 100-page prenup, we married. On paper, it was a dumb decision, but in real life, it was brilliant. Watching TV after work on our couch next to Brooke was wonderful. But with 2 young children falling asleep on our laps, filled with trust and not a fear in the world, was heaven. This was everything I ever wanted in life. I was never a one-night stand kind of guy, and never understood guys who were. Getting in the groove with a woman sexually takes a little time, certainly more than one night at least for me. Brooke and I had 2 more children. One day some idiot asked me which 2 kids were Brooke's before we married and which were mine. Geez, I don't even remember. They're all mine, I answered. We were at the elementary school graduation of our oldest son when my cell phone vibrated. I read the message and told Brooke I had an emergency and left. I visited the hospital room of my ex-friend of 25 years, Alan. We hadn't seen each other since he walked out of my house with my then-wife Sheila years ago. He was dying of throat cancer with just hours or maybe minutes left. He had messaged me at my oldest son's elementary school graduation and begged me to come visit again for one last time. He needed confession, closure, and forgiveness. We had competed with one another since high school. We were closer than brothers until he stole my first wife, Sheila, who later dumped him for some other guy. I wanted to say that I'm sorry for stealing your wife from you. Alan whispered, Are you apologizing or bragging? I asked. I guess a little of both. It was your own fault that she cheated on you. You couldn't or wouldn't satisfy her. She only climaxed with oral and you refused to do that for some crazy moralistic reason. Do you want to yell at me or hit me or something? Alan asked. I was always surprised that you didn't try to get some kind of revenge on me, like punching me or vandalizing my car. It wasn't like you to do nothing. I got a much better revenge. I gloated. I killed you. You're lying here in this hospital room racked with pain and a fatal cancer because I put you here. You took my wife and I took your life. Alan's eyes opened wide and he sat up in his bed. What are you talking about? I'm dying of throat cancer because of me. Tim laughed. The reason I wouldn't give her oral wasn't morality. It was mortality. Alan was puzzled. I had a private eye following you both and knew she was screwing you and 2 other guys. Oh, and one of them even after you married her. I knew that Sheila had the papillomavirus in her vagina. She didn't know, but I did. I paid off her gynecologist nurse $5,000 to tell me and another $20,000 not to tell her. That was my revenge. Your oral sex with her is what gave you throat cancer and is killing you. I hope it was worth it, sucker. And I do mean sucker. Alan began coughing and turning blue. The buzzer for the nurse dropped out of his hand as he gasped for his last breath. As I looked at his lifeless body, I regretted nothing and, in fact, felt great. I had committed the perfect revenge, maybe even the perfect crime. Maybe I'll make this a video game, or at least a post on YouTube. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comment section below and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.